So what if everything we made was designed to last forever? And I don't mean at a landfill, but as, food for something new. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea that challenges us to stop trying to be less bad and start designing things to be 100% good. It's an idea that should reshape everything, from the stuff we buy to the cities we live in.
And, this quote from Albert Einstein just hits the nail on the head. The industrial models that gave us so much progress, they were built on a specific way of thinking. But that exact same thinking has also created this global crisis of waste and pollution. The logic that got us into this mess just isn't going to get us out.
And at the very core of this whole crisis is a massive design flaw in our industrial system. It's basically a one-way street, a straight line that goes from the cradle, the birth of a product, directly to its grave.
I mean, think about it. We dig up incredibly valuable materials. We use a ton of energy to shape them into products, and then, after a pretty short life, our final job as the customer is to just throw it away. But where is a way? It doesn't exist. That phone, that old carpet, all that packaging, it all just ends up in this giant grave we call a landfill, and all its value is just lost forever.
This slide really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the system we all know, cradle to grave. It's linear, it's wasteful, and it's totally based on the idea that resources are finite. But on the other side, there's a completely different way of thinking, cradle to cradle. It's cyclical, it's nourishing, and it sees the world as a place of abundance, kind of like nature itself. All right, so here's our roadmap for how we can make this shift. First, we'll get into the core philosophy, which is called eco-effectiveness. Then, we'll look at 3 key principles that really bring it to life: respecting local diversity, seeing our buildings as living machines, and finally, a whole new way to measure success called the triple top line.
Okay, let's jump in. The main idea here is a pretty huge change in perspective. For decades, the whole goal of being green was just to be less bad. Use a little less energy, create a little less waste, pollute a little less. But, doing less bad isn't the same thing as doing good.
Let me give you an example. Imagine a brand new photocopier that's twice as fast and uses half the energy. On paper, that sounds great. That's a huge win for eco-efficiency. But if it's still printing on paper that can't be recycled or composted, it's just a more efficient way of making trash. Eco-effectiveness asks a totally different question. It asks, how can we design the paper, the ink, and the machine so that every single part becomes a safe, valuable nutrient for a brand new cycle? And that brings us right to our first principle, which sounds simple, but is actually pretty profound. All sustainability is local. The Industrial Revolution was all about this one-size-fits-all solution for everything. But that approach, it often creates way more problems than it solves.
Okay, take something as simple as laundry detergent. Most big companies create one universal formula that's designed to work in the hardest water on the planet. But that means if you live somewhere with soft water, you're just dumping a ton of unnecessary super strong chemicals into your local ecosystem with every single wash. An eco-effective design would be to create different detergents for different water types, using only what's needed for that specific place.
And this is where eco-effectiveness gets really exciting. It shows that intelligent design isn't about stamping identical glass boxes on every city from Reykjavik to Yangon. No. It's about celebrating what makes a place unique, using local materials, respecting the culture, and actually harnessing the local climate. This isn't just some fluffy, romantic idea. It's a much more resilient and, frankly, a truly sustainable way to build. So this whole idea of designing for a specific place, it leads us straight to our second principle. If we're supposed to be respecting the local environment, why are so many of our buildings designed to fight against it? Instead of a sealed-off box, what if a building could actually work with nature? I mean, why can't a building act more like a tree?
We've all been in that standard eco-efficient building, right? It's a sealed box with dark tinted windows you can't even open, all just to minimize energy loss. It's basically a machine you live in. But an eco-effective building, it's alive. It has windows that open for fresh air. It's designed to let in tons of natural daylight. It doesn't just use less energy, it might actually generate its own.
A green roof is just a brilliant example of this in action. A normal black tar roof is a huge problem. It sucks up heat, it needs constant repairs, and it creates all this polluted runoff. But cover that same roof with some soil and plants, and suddenly it becomes this massive asset. It cools the building, It manages rainwater, it insulates, and it even creates a habitat. You've just transformed a problem into a thriving, living system. And this isn't just some theory. When the furniture company Herman Miller designed a new factory, they filled it with skylights and windows that gave workers views of the landscape outside. People could see the clouds pass by, they could feel the rhythm of the day. And the result? A measurable jump in productivity. Design that connects us to nature isn't just pretty, it's actually good for business.
So if we're going to design buildings that are good for people and the planet and products that are good for the local environment, well, we need a new way to measure what good actually means. And that brings us to our third and final principle, which completely flips how we think about success.
Now, you've probably heard of the triple bottom line. This is something totally different. The triple top line. It's not some accounting report you fill out at the end of a project to see how much damage you did. No, it's a design tool you use from day one to intentionally create positive value across 3 key areas: ecology, equity, and economy.
And the tool for this is actually beautifully simple. It's a model that works at every single scale, from a tiny chair to an entire city, which is why it's called a fractal tool. As you design, you're constantly asking 3 questions. Ecology, is this healthy for all species? Equity, is it fair for everyone involved, from the factory worker to the person who buys it? And economy, is it financially viable? It forces you to take this holistic view right from the start.
And this is the fundamental shift. The old triple bottom line is reactive. It's an accounting tool that asks, okay, did we do less harm? The triple top line is proactive. It's a design tool asking, how can we create more good? For an investor, that's the difference between a company just reducing risk versus one that's actively creating new kinds of value. For us, it means supporting businesses whose whole purpose is to make things better, not just less bad. So when you put all these pieces together, eco-effectiveness, designing for local diversity, creating living buildings, and using the triple top line, a completely new vision of the future starts to emerge. And it is not a future of scarcity and limits and just doing with less.
It's a future where human industry is regenerative, where our buildings can act like trees, actually producing more energy than they consume, where factories can release water that's cleaner than when it came in, and where our products, at the end of their lives, become either safe biological nutrients for the soil or valuable technical nutrients for the next generation of industry. This isn't about limiting growth, it's about making growth intelligent.
So I'll just leave you with this. Our first industrial revolution was incredibly powerful, but it was also pretty clumsy. It saw nature as something to be beaten and conquered. But what if the next one is a partnership? If we begin to see a building as a tree and a city as a forest, the possibilities are truly limitless. What kind of world could we design then?